Hi there, nerds. So let's have a look at some unbalanced and balanced forces. These are pretty important because without unbalanced forces, we wouldn't get rockets into the air. And I just don't know what's more important than that. So this is our learning goal here. By the end of this lesson, we want to be able to understand the impact of unbalanced forces, like sending rockets. We want to be able to predict changes in motion with unbalanced forces. Remember, forces cause change in motion or shape, but they tend to cause changes in motion. So this is your vocabulary. If I could just get you to pause the video and write these down so you've got these to refer to as we're moving along through the lesson. Now, forces, okay? Here we see balanced forces. We have 300 newtons pushing this way or pulling this way, 300 newtons pulling that way. Here we have 400 newtons pulling this way and 300 newtons pulling that way to the right. So balanced forces. The forces are balanced if all the opposing forces, that's forces going in opposite directions or working against each other, cancel out. The net force equals 0 newtons, and this means there'll be no change in motion or shape. So, an object that is at motion, if there are no change in forces, if all the forces are balanced, will keep going in that motion forever. It will never stop. An object which is not at motion, so it's at rest, if we apply an unbalanced force, it will start moving because unbalanced forces. So this is where the forces don't cancel out. And that means there's a net force, like a net force is present and the force acts on the object. Okay, so let's have a look at this in a little more detail. So here in A, we use the free body diagram, 300 newtons pulling in one direction, 300 newtons pulling in the opposite direction. We have a net force of 0 newtons. But if we have 400 newtons pulling to the left and 300 newtons pulling to the right, we'll see that we have unbalanced forces. And before we work out the math, let's have a look. Here we see that these guys are standing still while these guys here have been pulled off their feet. So the center of the rope is starting to move in the tug of war. The tug of war is a really classic forces example. So the net force equals 100 newtons towards the left. Left, yes. So 100 newtons towards the left, and that's because force, remember, is a vector, so that it has size and magnitude. And what this means is there's a change in motion or an acceleration, and our body, which is the center of the rope, accelerates to the left, so it just starts to move. Now, let's have a look at a few different examples. First, we'll look at tug of war. We've got 50 newtons pulling in one direction, 30 newtons pulling in the other, so that's 20 newtons. Now, there's either a problem with this diagram or these people are the strongest people ever, because this person here is pulling with 30 newtons while the rocket only pushes up with 300 newtons. That's clearly, there's some scale problems there. So we have the albatross, seagull, whatever, diving down. Air friction is pushing against it at 16 newtons. Whereas its weight or gravity force is pulling down at 25 newtons, which means it has an overall force of 9 newtons down. Now, here's the actually interesting thing. What this means is this bird is not going down at the same speed. It is accelerating. It is experiencing a change in motion, not a change in position, a change in motion. So as it falls down, and if the force is unbalanced, it is increasing speed the whole way down. Here we have friction being the red force of 3 newtons in one direction and 8 newtons being applied in the other direction, which means overall 5 newtons force to the right. It is accelerating to the right. And here we have the lightest rocket in the world being lifted by 300 newtons with only 100 newtons of weight. And that means it weighs roughly 10 kilograms. So it's the smallest rocket ever. So obviously, they're just using the numbers there to show you whatever. So we don't have to use really large numbers. But 300 newtons pushing up, 100 newtons pushing down. That means the rocket is accelerating upwards due to a force of 200 newtons. Okay, so that's those are all unbalanced forces. And if there were balanced forces, there'd be no acceleration or no change in motion. Sweet. I hope that made sense. If it didn't, put any questions you have in the comments below and we'll get to you as quick as we can. Don't forget to subscribe or press the bell so you get a notification every time our videos pop up if you want. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye now.